When I first heard that we couldn't go to the sacraments anymore, I thought of it as kind of a hold on faith. But then once I got home and started streaming masses and uniting myself with the sacrifice of the Mass, I realized that I was kind of downplaying the power of the Mass. And I kind of realized you have to have faith that God is pouring out so many graces through the Mass, and those graces are more than sufficient to get us through this crazy quarantine.
Faith has been a really important part of my Lenten journey this quarantine because it's allowed me to really take the time to put my faith and trust in God and to follow Jesus just a little bit more closely throughout this Lenten season. Quarantine and the time of isolation has given me a chance for more silent prayer and meditation, and I really appreciate that.
This quarantine has really been the greatest opportunity of my Lenten journey. It's enabled me to deepen my relationship with God, to focus more on my spiritual life, and given me time that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And so it's really a great blessing in disguise for me.
This quarantine during Lent, I feel that my faith has grown because of the time given to me by God has given me many opportunities to pray and grow closer to Christ.
Since being quarantined, I have seen my faith grow deeper and more meaningful. As a family, we have drawn closer to each other through the long movie nights to our consecration of St. Joseph. This quarantine has allowed me to take my Lenten fast more seriously and has shown me how much I can take for granted. This has allowed me to learn to detach myself from worldly things and to entrust myself to God alone. It has drawn me closer to God and to our Blessed Mother, knowing that I can trust in them and allow whatever God's will be done, however scary it may seem or how frustrating it may be, because He is with us always.
My faith has been a really big part during quarantine and Lent. God has given me the strength that I need, especially during this time. I'm not scared of this virus thanks to Him. I realize that this virus is meant for all of us to disconnect ourselves from the world, the material things, and try to get closer to Him, try to focus on our spiritual life by praying, reading the Bible, celebrating Mass. Before, I didn't realize how much I needed the Eucharist, the Mass, and all the sacraments. I appreciate all the sacraments now. I thank the priest for celebrating Mass for us on social media platforms, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have the strength I have now. Thank you, everybody. God bless you, and I'm praying for all of you guys.
When you can't go to Mass and you can't go to confession, and when you can't receive Jesus in a physical way, you're kind of forced to realize how critical keeping Christ in your heart really is. And I've been forced to find many different ways to keep God alive in myself. I think this time is actually very good for my spiritual growth because I am developing good habits that I probably should have been practicing before when I could go to Mass. And once we do get back to Mass, confession, and the physical acceptance of Jesus into our bodies and hearts, I will have these newly formed habits that will help me grow even closer to God. And that's all thanks to quarantine. In some ways, when you're stuck at home, it's easier to slip up on Lenten resolutions or to become lazy. But some of the things I did were to pray the rosary as often as I could with my family, and to read good books and stay away from electronics and social media. I would also substitute Mass with like a live stream Mass and a spiritual communion. It's definitely harder to push yourself to keep up on things when you're at home and not at school, but it definitely forms good habits and it's very good for you.
Hello, I hope all is going well. During this time of uncertainty, I know that my faith is definitely stronger. I know that I am never alone and God is always with me. So I've been using this time to reflect on what's truly important to me, which is being a good mother and being a good wife. I especially love our extra prayer time together as a family. So God bless and be safe.